So Ravens flock, my last video, I titled it Fraud Alert because despite the fact that we were on a 5-game winning streak, this team still had too many red flags that put me in a position where it didn't make sense to be fully confident in the team yet, because even though we were winning, if you actually watch the game and really use some critical thinking for how things were playing out, it still wasn't it still wasn't a team that looked ready to actually compete for a Super Bowl or even a playoff appearance, honestly. And and you saw that get exposed in a game like this where we just lost to the Cincinnati Bengals 32-14. You saw these red flags come back out again in this game. So one of the things that I was pointing out was, hey, we keep winning these ugly games. That's not the position you want to be in. You don't want to be in a position where you're playing these bad teams and you're still barely squeezing out a win by the skin of your teeth. You're having to fight and claw to win ugly games against bad teams. And that's what happened the past like 5 weeks. We were beating up on bad teams and we couldn't even properly dominate them. We're going up a team like when we go and play the Jets, a team that while they still have respectable defensive linemen, they lost their most important player on the defensive line, and still we can't block them. And then even when it came to this defense, I can't stand these media pundits that hype up this Ravens defense. They did the same bullshit last year where they want to say, oh, well, the Ravens defense, they really turned things around. And they're not actually explaining to the people, to the casuals, what's actually going on. The Ravens defense has not been playing well. The fact of the matter is, the past 5 weeks or 5 games coming off of the bye, we've played bad offenses. Told y'all, the only good game this defense has played this year was against the Chicago Bears. That's the only truly good game the Ravens defense played. We went up against when we played the Bears, we played a good offense that was red hot, and we kept them in check and forced timely turnovers. But you look at the rest of the schedule, I'm like, okay, the beginning of the year, we couldn't stop anybody. We barely stopped the Rams. In reality, the only reason the Rams only scored 17 and not 30 was because they had an off game. We didn't stop them. The defense didn't actually play well against them. And then the past several weeks, we played bad offenses. We're playing teams like the Browns with Dylan Gabriel. We're playing teams like the Jets who have Justin Fields and Tyrod Taylor. We're playing teams that literally had terrible offenses. And they want to put up all these stats over the past 4 games and saying, oh, well, the Ravens defense, they turned things around. They're back. No, they're not. They're literally not. As soon as we have to go back to playing a good offense in the Bengals, what happened? Immediately, we go right back to being a team that can't get stops, that gives up chunk plays, that gives up 30-plus points a game. Immediately. Ravens fans love making jokes about how the Bengals offensive line is so trash, but yet we don't have one pass rusher that could get to Joe Burrow. Only sack of the game came from Marlon Humphrey on a blitz. It's pathetic. And then again, to go back to the issues I was having over the past couple weeks, our offense against bad teams with subpar defenses for the most part, they still struggle to score. They can't do anything in the end zone. And then you have a game like this. This was supposed to be the ideal game to really get back on track offensively, especially from a passing game perspective, because I don't think we passed for 200 yards in like almost 2 months. And on top of that, we haven't had a passing touchdown in like 3 or 4 weeks. And we're going up against the worst defense in NFL and a team that statistically was one of the worst defenses in NFL history. And We just fell apart. We simply fell apart. Like it just we fell apart in every way imaginable. Lamar had a terrible game where he starts off early with the fumble in our own red zone or in our own side of the field to give them the ball back at like the 5 yard line. Then he had a couple overthrows. He had a miscommunication with Bateman. Where Bateman, for whatever reason, it looks like maybe they just I don't know if Bateman ran the wrong route or Lamar just either way, it doesn't matter. Miscommunications. Then on top of that, when Lamar hits the players, guys are dropping passes. Then on top of that, when Lamar's hitting Isaiah Likely is fumbling at the goal line. Then on top of that, Lamar hits Zay Flowers for a like a 50-yard touchdown, and the referees call the softest offensive pass interference I've ever seen. Like they called they called a push off on that Zay Flowers. Dude, Zay Flowers weighs like 110 pounds, bro. Like Zay Flowers barely touched that guy's shoulder. And they called the offensive pass interference on that. And then you got the broadcasters, the announcers backing them up saying, "Oh yeah, that's the right call." No, it's not the right call. You literally just saw Jamar Chase right before when the Bengals had the ball and Jamar Chase caught a 40-yard pass. Jamar Chase did the exact same thing to Marlon Humphrey. I mean, wide receivers do that all the time. Like, and on top of that, again, Zay barely touched the guy, and you're gonna call a flag on that. And at that point, I'm like, yeah, this game, this is gonna be probably a mess of a game, and that's what it was. Like always, the offensive line, they couldn't block. Harbaugh finally decided to try to switch things up at the guard position where he put in Emory Jones Jr. He kept taking him in and out, putting him in and out, like cycling him in and out. I don't know if that's because they didn't trust him enough to keep him in for a long period of time, or if they just felt like he was playing so badly that they just had to put Voorhees back in. I don't know what the case is yet. We'll see in a couple. We'll see by probably tomorrow when we're looking at the all 22 of what happened. But again, the offensive line can't block. We got off to a decent enough start where Derrick Henry gets a rushing touchdown, but again, this team can't sustain drives. If they don't get the big play, we're pretty much cooked. Like there's just nothing here. There's just nothing here. And then again, when you need the defense to come through and make plays, for the most part, they can't. Now, to be fair, towards the end of the game, Travis Jones forced a fumble. Finally, somebody on the defense made a play. Travis Jones forced a fumble. We have one last chance to really try to make a push to come back. And Lamar hits Zay Flowers, and Zay Flowers fumbles. And, I don't even know where to begin with what's wrong with this team. This is just essentially a poorly constructed team that after years of being held up is starting to crumble on itself. It's starting to collapse on itself. And the main reason it's collapsing on itself is because you can clearly see Lamar's not healthy. Lamar's not healthy. He's pushing through, but he's not healthy. And on top of not being healthy, he's not in sync with these receivers right now. Some of our players look checked out. You look at Bateman looked checked out. A bunch of these guys, they don't look like they're really into this like that. And it goes back to, I always say, you watch these big moments, the team doesn't have a sense of urgency. And to me, I think that's a reflection of the coach. But because the coach should absolutely be drilling in people's head just how dire the situation is. You cannot go out here and just go through the motions, man. You need every game. You need to win every play. But they don't play like that. And now you fall to 6-6. You lost the number one. You lost the division lead that you had. So now you're back in the wild card position where you're in the hunt. Now, see, we our future was literally in our own hands. Now you gotta not only win out, but you also have to hope that a couple. Now you gotta hope for help. We had our fate in our hands, and all we had to do was just keep winning one game at a time. But now you take a loss like this. Now, not only do you have to win out, you gotta hope that Pittsburgh or Buffalo or Jacksonville or the Chargers, one of these players, I mean one of these teams, you gotta hope they also start slipping and they drop a couple games too, which is possible, but it shouldn't come down to this. And now losses like this also take people's confidence away when it comes to, even if we sneak into the playoffs, realistically, what are you expecting out of this team? What are you expecting out of these guys? And it's sad because this is the year where there there's no truly impressive team in the NFL right now. This would this would be the ideal year to go out here and make a run. And we don't even look slightly ready. We're entering week we have 5 games left in the season. We have 5 games left in the season and nothing is clicking. Nothing is clicking at all. Nothing at all. Nothing at all. And these coaches still need to be fired. We still need a fresh start. Because again, you watch games like this and it's truly mind-boggling. The poorly constructed team that this is truly mind-boggling. The ridiculous play calling that we're seeing is truly mind-boggling, that we have so many highly paid players. And then when we need the most of them don't come through. At the very least, if Lamar has a bad game, we already know the entire country is going to come down on him. But when you have a defense with multiple players making $100 million, you nobody wants to talk about the fact that these guys can't stop anybody. The only time they look good is when they play teams like the New York Jets. The New York Jets literally don't have an offense. See, people made jokes about the Miami Dolphins for the past several years, calling them breakdancers. When in reality, that's what the Ravens have been, breakdancers. Everything they said the Dolphins were, that's what the Ravens have been. Because when we come into these situations where we need to get stops, we can't get it. We simply can't get it. And then we shoot ourselves in the foot nonstop.